Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO, TED Talks, Devoted Talks, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience to help you and those you love in suffering in your personal and greater worlds alike. And I wasn't going to record another one, and yet here I am. Context is everything, not because it's a cute little saying, but because it really is. The only way to understand anything is to be contextually involved with it. And until you are, you don't know anything about it, right? When they say, if there's nobody around to hear a tree fall in the woods, did it really make a sound? And that's context, right? If nobody's there to have a sensation of the thing that happened, did it happen? Was it real? Was there something associated with it that would be related to us? Well, contextually, we would assume that because a tree fell, it would have made a noise, but we could never truly know. We would just either observe it after it had fallen or through some other context. Now, the interesting thing as humans with high cognition is we can't interview other animals to see what their perception was. We do know that after a tree has fallen, it does begin the decomposition process. So there is an assumption that anything that would have been in the tree would have heard what had happened. But if there was nothing else around it, would it have? That's context, right? But that's part of the mind. That's part of the thinking and understanding that we put out into the world. So if you can start to surrender this idea of understanding, because you can only understand through the context of what is within your psyche, whether you have information, whether you've learned it, whether you haven't, we start to build our competency to think. But logic and our thinking is a mode and modem of the mind. And so the mind is uniquely us in this current experience as we are. We don't know how other creatures think. We know that some animals have higher abilities of thinking and reasoning and imitating and or doing, but they're not quite the same as us. There is a depth that is achieved through our brain mass and through the way it is oriented. But that in and of itself and that understanding of it is still context. And so we apply context to everything. So it's not just a cute saying to go, context is everything. No, your brain and your way of thinking is a context. And when that comes into contact with other brains who have their own context of thinking, even though it's shared that we both have minds, it creates even more dynamics. And so we have these constant distortions like ripples on a pond running into each other. And that's what the experience of life is. It's each of these individual drops like rain on a pond or a lake, and all these ripples all come together. Have you ever seen a hard rain on the water? It's just a bunch of water going up and down, like the drops hit and things are popping up, but there isn't really a space to expand. So we as humans would do better to come together as one mind and then expand out as ripples together rather than all of these individual ones fighting on the surface of experience on the lake of consciousness. So if you've never seen rain on a lake, well, it's hard to explain, but there is no room because there's a lot of energy being dispersed among the entire surface of the water. Plus there's disturbances going down and up as droplets are going back up when it hits. So there's a lot happening. That's kind of like what the world is today. There's a bunch of drops hitting consciousness and having their experiences, running into the experiences of others, and or creating new experiences together. And it looks like a big old mess. And that's okay. Context is everything. It only looks like a mess right now because we don't have the context to understand the purposes that it serves in a greater context. We don't have the ability right now to conceive of it from a greater perspective. We will eventually. That is guaranteed. How long that'll be, when that happens, and in what way is really going to be dependent on the moment and the people involved. So, how do we take this and grow from it? Understand that if something is happening, it serves a purpose because there is a context, some way, somehow, somewhere that it will be made sense through. things don't just happen, right? The manifest world is all about attention and intention and consciousness pushing into the Maya, into Prakruti, and creating. So if anything is here, it does have reason. It does have purpose. It has to. Now, if you can't have a context for it, then it's just going to be random, and that's okay. But that doesn't change the fact that it serves a purpose. We just may not have the context for that purpose. And that's where evolution comes in, and that's where enlightenment comes in. We start to have less story that facilitates a solid or a petrified context. So it can evolve and grow, it can be built upon, right? It is building with the purpose of adding on, right? They talk about some houses that are constructed in ways that are meant to be added on to. And so they are structurally different than places that were meant to be complete already. And so consciousness, if we play it right, we can start to make a cohesive context that is adaptable and able to grow and be built upon by society as a whole. But it starts with like-minded people coming together and foundationally building that. I don't know exactly what that looks like because there's a lot of people who they're right about a lot of things. And a lot of them are just closed-minded and rigid, and they are the house that was built as a complete unit, and they're trying to add things onto it that were never meant to, or they have in their mind no need to add anything else, and so they reject society and or other people within society for that reason. All right, my friends, hope this made sense. It was a little interesting. I had fun with it, but my biggest wish for you is to be well and be free.